Hey, what's going on, everybody? Ryan Newple here, Knup Sports Show, episode 195. Super excited to have you here today. Thank you for tuning in, listening, giving me just a little bit of your attention. I've been battling a little bit of sickness over the last week, so if my voice sounds different, that is why. This event conference tour is really plays a toll on your health, and so lost my voice over the last couple of weeks and now trying to get it back. So I'm excited for this one. Got another great guest. Before we get going, though, first, I wanted to say this show is brought to you by SBC. They have 100, it seems like 100, but they have tons of great events coming up here. One in North America that we're going to touch on with our guest today, but super excited to dive in what they have going on and hope to see all of you listeners at some of the events that are coming up brought to you by SBC. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on my guest today. I have none other than Jessica Welman with me. Jessica, how are you?
Hello. Is it at least, are you back home now or are you still on your world tour?
You know what? I'm back home right now. I'm in Florida, Orlando, Florida, and trying to recover. I mean, geez, I hit something. I got some sickness, and I was like down for the count last week. It's just part of it, I guess.
I did 3 conferences in a row last year, and I mean, you might as well have put me in a marathon. I was just absolutely useless for a good 3 or 4 days after getting back.
I know. It's like you got to be in shape, and like it's like a
You got
whole
to train
process
for
to go
it.
to
Like
these.
it's conference season, gonna get on the treadmill.
Absolutely. Well, Jessica, I'm super excited to dive in here. I know we've been friends in the industry for quite some time, and I've always respected your journey and what you've done. And I'm excited to share with the listeners kind of a little bit more about you and what you're up to. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your career path leading up to where you are today?
Sure. So my name is Jessica Welman. I am currently with SBC, but I actually haven't even been with them a full year yet. We're only like 9 months in. I think I'm sticking around for a while though. Prior to that, I kind of joke with people like nobody aspires to be a gambling writer. I don't think nobody's like going to college for that just yet. So, way back in the day, I was in film school
Mm.
and I thought I was going to be a movie producer. And then I didn't like the industry and I went back to film school to be a professor. And I didn't really like that. But at the time, I had learned to play poker from a friend, and I was playing poker around Indiana, where I went to grad school, and Kentucky, where I'm from. And I started writing some papers about poker that went over really well in grad school.
Hmm.
So I decided I don't want to do summer school. I'm really kind of lazy. And so I went out to the World Series of Poker claiming I was doing research and worked with an affiliate group there called Pocket Fives that
Mhm.
uh, doesn't exist anymore, but has been around for a long time. Or it does exist, it just has a different name. And by the end of that, I got recommended to report on poker for the World Poker Tour. Kind of year or so later after grad school was over, got hired by Bluff Magazine. And I was hardcore into just reporting on poker. And
Mm.
when I say reporting on poker, I mean I'm standing by a table with my little notepad being like, Ryan raises to 500. James calls.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I would go back to the typewriter. God, I'm not that old. I would
Not
go
that
back
long.
to the computer, type it up, put it on the internet. Did that. And along about, I missing a step in here. I ended up working directly for the World Series of Poker for a couple of years, which was
Mhm.
great. It was great to get some insight into an operator because that was right around the time that Nevada and New Jersey were starting to do online poker and online casino. But I was just burnt out. I was working like traveling something like 150 days a year. And then the World Series, you're home in Vegas, but you're not
Mm.
because it's 16-hour days.
Sure.
So it was just time to do something else. And an opportunity came around to work for an affiliate that very soon after I started became Katina US.
Mm.
I started maybe 2 months before that acquisition was announced.
Mm.
So I was with them and really just built up their state pages. Play Pennsylvania was my project
Mhm.
when Pennsylvania was expanding gambling. Did a lot of new build outs, Indiana, Tennessee, and then that kind of became the division that I ran. And again, just got to a point where I always am looking for something new and interesting,
Sure.
and went back to the operator side very briefly with Bally's.
Mhm.
But when this opportunity came up to come over to SBC, what I love about it is, like, I'm not the best affiliate in the world. Too much SEO makes me a little nauseous. So,
Mhm.
the idea of getting to just do a trade publication and just really focus on the industry
Yeah.
and be less about, like, you know, 5 best deposit bonuses
Sure.
for March Madness and those sorts of things. That's important. There are people who do that very well. I'm not very good at it. So, this is kind of the perfect landing spot for me where I get to write and edit and create content around what's going on in the industry that's more for people who are in the industry than people who are taking part as customers.
Wow, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing all that. I really relate to one of your first comments. You're like, nobody grows up saying they're going to be a gambling writer. And that's kind of funny because I'm in content, of course,
Yeah,
as
exactly.
well.
You weren't like, "What can I study that's gonna really set me up for success in
Yeah,
this
like I
realm?"
get asked that all the time. Like, wait, you're doing what? Like, how did you get into that? And it's like, well, it's a long story, but it
It's
wasn't it
never a
wasn't what
short
I went
story.
to
That's
school
the
for. Let's just say that. So
it's
anyway,
never
so
like, "Yeah, I just did it."
yeah, so that's crazy. So okay, so now you're at SBC, great company. Obviously, I've been friends with those folks for a long time, and I think if anyone knows anything about this industry, the iGaming industry that we're in, they know SBC just puts on amazing events, right? And I know you're doing a lot of the journalistic stuff and covering things, but I'm assuming you're excited for SBC event season that's about to be coming here with all the events that are coming across the world, really.
Oh, absolutely. That was the other piece of this that was nice about the job is I enjoy conferences. I know they're not necessarily for everyone, but, like, I love getting out there and meeting people and having conversations about the industry, and so getting to do that with SBC and, in the Meadowlands, in Toronto, in Barcelona, in Miami, um, those are just the ones I've attended. There's so many more beyond that. The content that they're putting out is so great too. Like, I spend most of my time during the conference in these sessions
Mhm.
listening to what people have to say because it's good topics. They're being relatively candid. Sometimes some of these they keep it really high level, but I think the way that the conference team has kind of dug down into topics that really are a little smaller, more specific, and give people opportunities to really do a deeper dive is very cool.
Yeah, that is cool, and I think that's one thing that gets missed sometimes. It's kind of ironic because sometimes I feel like one thing that does get missed at some of these events is the value of the content that's being delivered, right? I mean, everybody loves the networking and the parties and the all of the seeing everybody and talking to everybody. But at the end of the day, there's some amazing panelists at some of these conferences or all of these conferences, really. And I'm assuming Meadowlands is going to have an all-star lineup again here. Let's dive into the Meadowlands one because I know that's really the next one coming up, May
Yep.
9th through 11th in New Jersey. This will be what, like year three or so that they've done it
Oh,
in New
see, this
Jersey?
is where I'm not positive, but yeah, 3 or 4, I wanna say, and then there was an online one. There was
Yeah,
a COVID one that absolutely, I was a part of and was great as well. But yeah, we're back at the Meadowlands, bigger than I think we'll ever be, and as always, the content is really great. Lots of CEOs coming to talk, not just operator CEOs. I think we have an affiliate, a panel that's nothing but CEOs, for
mm,
example. That it's just a great experience to get to see all different solutions
yeah,
and topics you want because there's so many different tracks. I jump around from track to track, but maybe you just want to talk about payments. There's a track for that.
sure, sure. It's going to be an amazing event, and it's so interesting and fascinating from the outside looking in at the growth that SBC has seen over the last several years. I mean, I can remember doing their first one in the US and kind of people like what's this like iGaming but betting in the US kind of weird, like we don't know how this is all going to go, and now it just feels like the momentum is just at a peak and like things are just really moving forward. Can you talk a little bit? I mean, obviously you're new to SBC, but can you talk a little bit just about that? one, about the industry growth we've seen, and two, about the success that SBC has seen alongside of that growth.
Yeah, absolutely. We all go to G2E, right? That's the one that has been on everyone's calendar and is the can't miss one, but it's so vast and online is just a part of it. Whereas I think because SBC Americas or North America focuses really just on the digital side of things,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's, I think, made it stand out and made it become this event that you need to find time in your summer to attend. Because right now, I mean, we cover everything at SBC Americas. I feel like I basically never write about land-based stuff
Mm-hmm.
anymore because that's where all of the action is happening. And certainly brick and mortar casinos will always be a huge part of the industry. But thinking about in these nascent early years how to get into online sports betting and to a lesser extent online casino and make a mark there's so many more opportunities for smaller organizations.
Mm.
Talking about brick and mortar casinos, unless you're making chairs or decks of cards or something like that, and again, those companies have been around forever. I don't know how many inroads there are to get involved in that, but what's great about online gambling, we have our first pitch competition, for example, which is looking at up and coming product solutions, whether it be B2C or B2B, that can augment the sports betting experience. And whether it be content or payments or, compliance, there's just because it's so new and because it's coming at such a quick pace, I think the fact that there are so many opportunities for people is what draws them to this conference to meet people. And I think what draws them to this industry more largely too, right? Is,
Yeah.
on the I keep going back to content because it's what you and I do, but it used to be just people like us. And now you're seeing the New York Post and Gannett and um, ESPN potentially, or well, the ESPN's already somewhat involved.
Sure.
Major publishing outlets are now our competitors in this
Right.
space, and I don't know if that would have happened if online didn't come around and explode the way that it has.
Absolutely. So May 9th through 11th, it's going to be an amazing event. One thing I have to touch on is the amount of networking and parties that SBC puts on. I mean, I think they're becoming notorious for some of the events that they throw, not even at, just at these events, but they love to do the little networking events and the Vegas baby and all of the above. And let's talk a little bit about the networking that's going to go on around the SBC Summit North America, because I know in the past they've picked some prime time locations to have very event-like experiences, right? Or very experiential events, I guess I should say. I'm assuming there's going to be some awesome locations here in May as well. Let's talk a little bit about that because I know everyone is always itching for those as well.
Yeah, we are a group that works hard, plays hard, right? We
Love that.
go very hard at the conference, but then we go very hard at the parties. When I first started, I'm like, a 5-hour party? This is like a wedding reception. Like, I don't know if I have the
I'm
energy
tired
for
thinking
this.
about it.
Um, but that's what's great is we do basically a big event every night of the summit.
Mhm.
And the venues, our team is always scouting for the most interesting places to go. And I believe we were at Bar Moxie last year, and we'll be back there for the
Mhm.
pre-registration this year. For those who are unfamiliar with our conference, yes, the show is in New Jersey, but
Yes.
we go back and forth. The Player Protection Symposium is in Manhattan. This opening night is in Manhattan. Our closing night and awards is in Chelsea, I believe, this year.
Mm, cool.
And then we also have events kind of during the day. I love the Global Gaming Women breakfast
Mhm.
that we do. That was really fun last year. I don't think I've ever seen that many women in the same
Mm,
space.
love it.
There's an African Americans in Gaming networking event during the day. And then I believe we're also going to be doing a tribal meetup as well.
Cool.
So there's opportunities to meet new people within these specific subgroups as well as these big parties where you just you brace yourself, you prepare for it and know that you're going to be able to go and talk to everybody. But even on the floor, you've been, the Meadowlands isn't huge, the
Mhm,
conference space. I
mhm.
would say it takes what, 45 seconds to technically walk from one side to the other. But anytime I knew I needed to go from one side to the other, I would have to budget like 10 minutes
Yeah,
because you're going to run into 6 people on
right.
your way from one stage to the other stage.
And I love how you work hard, play hard, but the parties aren't all about play. I mean, these things I've gotten probably more value out of just the networking at these alone than any other thing that I can probably do. I mean, you got to be a little intentional about it. You got to make sure that if you have people you want to see, people you want to talk to, you can't sit in your shell. You kind of got to be. I'm kind of an introvert by nature, which everybody's like, "What? You're an introvert doing podcasts and things like that?" But I don't really want to talk to people, but you kind of have to put yourself out there and just go and talk to people because there are a plethora of people to talk to. And honestly, like you never know who you're going to talk to, you're going to run upon, who you're going to maybe your next business partner is at one of these events, right? And so I would urge anyone going to this event that does take advantage of the networking parties. It's not just about partying, drinking, eating. I mean, that's great, but
Yeah.
make sure you do network. Make sure you go into it with a little bit of that because I think that's really how you can build your name, your business, and things of that nature too.
Well, I'm the same way. I hate going up to strangers. Like
Mm,
I'm very outgoing, but just blind cold going. But what's great about this conference is there are so many people there, and you get to know people over the
yeah,
years that inevitably after a year or two you reach a point where whoever you want to meet is like 1 degree away from you.
sure,
You know someone who can walk up, or you see that the person you want to talk to is talking to someone you know, and you have that ability to gain entry to chat with them that way versus, a cold email or something like that that's going to get lost in an inbox.
sure, sure. So that one's coming up May 9th through 11th. I would urge everyone to go. We actually have a promo code. We're media partners with SBC. So Knup 23. That's across any events that SBC is doing. So little shameless plug. If you guys are looking to go and you don't have tickets yet, make sure you use that promo code, get a little discount. Get out there and make sure you say hello to Jessica and myself. We'll both be roaming around
Yes,
aimlessly
I
at
just
these
said I
events.
don't go up to strangers, but like come say hi to me. I will be happy to chat with you. I'm just bad at going up to people. And I
uh,
also should just say, if any of you, Canada, I think the excitement, we're coming up on a year in, but there's still a lot of excitement out there. We have a Canadian event as well in June 13th through 15th. So if that code works, might as well look into a quick jaunt to Toronto if
There
you're
you go.
interested in that part
I will
too.
be in Toronto as well. That's gonna be my first time to Canada. I'm super excited for that event. It
Oh,
should be
it's
amazing.
fun.
We
It's
scrolled.
right in the heart of everything.
Is it? It's gonna
Yeah.
be amazing. I'm super excited about that, and, yeah, we could touch on all of these events, I'm sure, and have a little different angle on all of them. I'm scrolling them across the bottom now so you can see the dates. You guys can go out to sbcevents.com, and they have them all listed there as well, but, North America, Casino Beats, Canadian Gaming Summit, I'm sure Barcelona. I've heard Barcelona is amazing. I'm not sure I'll
It's
get
so
to that
big.
one, but sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And then
It's
Latino America
huge.
in Miami and kind of a few hours away from me here in Orlando. That one was amazing last year as well. So excited for a little Miami in late October is never a bad thing.
Yeah, you're staying warmer than I am right now. So
Yeah.
I'm dreaming about Florida at the moment.
I hear you. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for giving us so much time here today. What did we miss? We've touched a lot about the events, but what about for you? What does the future look like for you and your team there at SBC? More yourself specifically.
Yeah, so I work on two sites, sbcamericas.com and canadiangamingbusiness.com. I am actually the only American on our media team. And so that choice and that intention to really invest more in what we're doing in North America is something that I hope is starting to pay off in the content that we're doing on those sites. I've been very proud of my group and how much we've been on top of all of the legislative efforts that are going on, because there's something like 3 or 4 every day, it feels like. So with that, the amount of content that we're putting out is more than I've ever put out. I got to hear and they were like, "We do 10 stories a day." And my jaw fell on the floor. uh, But we do, and I'm proud of the content that we're doing, and I think we're also just starting to provide a little more insight in addition to just the news itself. I feel like my job lately has been watching all of these interesting and thrilling regulatory and
Mhm.
legislative hearings so that you all don't have to. So you can get the Cliffs Notes version at SBC Americas and check out what we're doing. We have newsletters on both of them as well if it's easier for you to just get it to your inbox every day.
Awesome, cool. Well, I love what you're doing from that side as well, and I definitely digest everything that comes across. I love the summarized version because sometimes, man, some of the news stories just can get so like above my head. Even I'm like,
The
oh man,
Massachusetts
when I kind of know
regulators were
what
like,
impacts me.
we've had 70 meetings and each meeting is 5 to 6 hours, and I
Oh,
was just, like, ticking it up. I was like, "That is 300 hours of my life that I have
that I
dedicated
will
to
never get
this
back.
that I'm not getting back," but,
Uh,
it's actually gotten fascinating. I'm gonna miss them when they aren't
yeah,
meeting every day.
for
It's a
sure.
weird codependency now.
Well, I want to thank you for all the efforts you give to continue growing this ever growing industry. You're doing your part, so thank you for that, Jessica. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way of contacting you?
Email's probably easiest. It's jessica.wellman@sbcgaming.com. There's one L in Wellman. That's a little bit tricky. Or I'm pretty active on Twitter as well. I'm at Jess Wellman there. And either way, just reach out, say hello.
Awesome. Any last words that we missed? Anything we didn't touch on that you wanted to say?
Oh my goodness. I think we covered the fun stuff. I've got to go back to the less interesting stuff like reading bill amendment substitutions. So I've enjoyed this. Thanks for having me. I needed this fun break from very intense reading.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you in May.
Yeah, same here. We'll see you then.
All right, Jessica. Take care.
Thanks.
All right, that was Jessica Welman, episode 195 of SBC. Super cool individual. If you've never met Jessica, I really urge you to say hello to her at one of the upcoming events. Really awesome person. So thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you guys and the audience. And the numbers of this have been growing. We're almost up to 200 episodes, which is just blows my mind because everybody starts at zero, and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to get any listeners? And now I'm just blown away by the response I get when I go to events and you guys say, "Hey, we heard this episode and we love this episode and you should have this person on." And I just love that. So please, I urge you to continue to do that and give me that little bit of support to keep this thing going because it's a lot of fun. So, all right, that's it for today. Again, episode 195. I hope to see you in May at SBC New Jersey in the Meadowlands. It's going to be an awesome event. Knup 23 code if you haven't got your tickets yet. And until next time, I'm Ryan Nupel checking out for today. Take care. Bye-bye.